Good morning. Shantideva in his Bodhicharya Avatara says that even though we want happiness, but out of ignorance, we destroy the cause of happiness as if it is our enemy. Even though we do not want suffering, but we chase after suffering, we run after suffering. Again, because of ignorance. See, this is a very important statement that he has made. That even though we want happiness, we are not getting enough of it. There is a short supply of happiness. Even though we do not want suffering, there is suffering is amply available, Suffering is found in abundance. Leave it like that, yeah. So therefore, even though we want happiness, we are not getting enough of it. Even though we do not want suffering, we are getting so much of it because of ignorance. That is a point to be noted down. So as we discussed right in the beginning, on the very first day, that we all want happiness, that we all want most reliable, long-lasting peace and happiness. If that is the case, now what we need to really find out is that we are not getting enough happiness because of ignorance. We have so much suffering because of ignorance. Ignorance is the sworn enemy. Ignorance is the sworn enemy. That's what he is talking about. That's very, very crucial. And in Buddhism we say ignorance is the root cause of samsara, this cycle of existence. Birth, death, sickness, then again birth, death, sickness, birth, death, sickness. This cycle, unending cycle of existence is because of ignorance. Ignorance. See? Now when we say ignorance, we are not talking about ignorance in the sense of just lack of knowledge. That is also there. But ignorance primarily in the sense of misconception of reality. Misconception of reality. So basically I am talking about two kinds of ignorances. One is simply lack of knowledge. Not knowing something, of course that is one form of ignorance. But there is another form of ignorance which is called misconception of reality. So both of these ignorances must be identified and removed and eradicated. So that is what a Buddhist practitioner should do. Even on a very ordinary level, because of ignorance we suffer in many ways. Because of lack of knowledge we suffer in many ways. If you look at science, the word science came from the Latin word called scientia, which means knowledge. So it's interesting, you see. Science also came into being with the idea that much of your physical sufferings, because science is primarily talking about physical sufferings, not so much about mind. It's talking about physical hardships, sufferings. So all the scientific discoveries are rooted in this one understanding that much of your physical hardships and problems that you are encountering is because you don't have the knowledge. If you have the knowledge, you don't have to suffer. Many of these sufferings can be reduced. For example, if you are sitting in the darkness, in ancient times we used to do that. We sit in the darkness. There's not enough light. Darkness. And people even strain their eyes, The scientists then said, okay, let us do something to remove this darkness. Then they invented electricity. See? They invented electricity. Much of our problems reduced. Then many of the physical illnesses, in those ancient times, people had no treatment. There was no medicine. So when somebody is seriously ill, Oh, then there's no treatment. Then they would say, oh, a very bad evil force has entered into this person. So the only way to make this person, purged of that evil force is to beat that person. And it has actually happened in history that some people were beaten to death because they were beating, and of course it's not cured because it's a strong physical illness, you see. Then they thought, oh, this is not going to help because the evil force inside is hanging on, it's very strong, so we need to beat stronger. So in this process, there are cases of people killing. Ignorance, you can clearly see. Now when I say this, I'm not saying there is no evil force may be there. But the interesting that you need to understand is, what is evil force? Evil forces arise primarily because of your way of thinking, your mental attitude. Sometimes people ask me, Geshe, it looks like I'm being harmed by an evil force. What should I do? Then I tell them, I do not tell them, do this puja, do that puja. That can also be done. I'm not against that. That can also be done. But I normally tell them, this is my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong. And I tell them that if you think you're harmed by an evil force, then you should become stronger. Because when you become weak, it's a law of nature. When you become weak, you're harmed by viruses. Your immune system becomes weak, you are harmed by viruses. When you're physically, mentally weak, you are bullied by people. You see? This is a law of nature. So you need to be strong to fight against all these physical illnesses and also mental sufferings. You need to be strong, physically strong, mentally strong. When you're physically, mentally strong, all these ideas about evil force will not be there. You see? So it's again, you can see your happiness is in your hand. That's what I was saying right in the beginning. Likewise, when one of the scientists were trying to invent the lightning conductor, then I think primarily Christians in those days in that area, they used to make fun of this person, this scientist, saying, what are you doing with this iron rod? You think you can stop the lightning conductor by this iron rod that you are coming up? Actually, this iron rod that you are inventing is a sign of your being against the will of the God. All these natural happenings like lightning, rain, all are created by God. So the lightning will fall only on those, kill only those where it must be falling. So you cannot stop that. People used to say that, you see. But then look, with lightning conductor, lives of many stocks, people were saved. Still it's functioning today. Lack of knowledge, you see. So lack of knowledge or ignorance is rampant in human mind. And unfortunately, many religions also still have that cultural or religious clipping there. So therefore it is really comforting to read the Buddhist teaching where using your common sense, finding things by yourself, using reason. Now His Holiness is talking about working with scientists, you see. It's really amazing. So therefore, we need to really improve our knowledge about all aspects of reality. And the more you gain knowledge, the more you gain insight, the more you will be able to get rid of many of these sufferings and problems or irritations that you face in your life. That's why even in ordinary parlance, we need to go to school to remove ignorance, starting from ignorance of not knowing ABCD and then gradually knowing ABCD and more, and then you do your PhD, Why you need to get all this knowledge? So that you are able to handle many things properly, and so that you will not suffer unnecessarily. So in a sense, much of the sufferings and problems there we are encountering are unnecessary problems. That's also a very important point to be noted down. As His Holiness the Dalai Lama always says, if you look at the misfortunes or calamities that we see in the world, there are basically two: natural calamities and man-made calamities, man-made misfortunes, man-made problems. Now in addition to the sufferings, natural sufferings, much of the sufferings that we are experiencing today are man-made problems. And as His Holiness always says, man-made problems are essentially unnecessary problems. Since these problems are created by human beings must solve them. See, again, gaining with this kind of knowledge, it really encourages you how to solve these man-made problems, be it environmental destruction, be it pollution of the mountains, pollution of the rivers, be it congestion, be it dirt, so many bad things we see today in the world. These are all created by the intelligent human beings. I'm making a sarcastic remark. Created by the intelligent human beings, you see. So therefore we have a big responsibility. Of course, as a Buddhist, your highest aim is to get that highest happiness, which you call Buddhahood. Buddhahood basically means highest happiness. Why you want Buddhahood? Because you want highest happiness. That is highest happiness, you see. So we need to understand it in this way. But before that, in our day-to-day life, even in our small surrounding where we live, we can make that little surrounding nice, happy, peaceful, clean by dedication, by sense of responsibility, by doing something, not just talking about others. Oh, this is the responsibility of the minister, he's not doing it, this is the responsibility, that person is not. Everybody is saying and nobody is doing. So how can we make progress, you see? So all of us have some responsibility to do our small bit. And then we can change. And once there is a positive change, positive environment, happy environment, everybody is happy. You see? When there is a good fruit, good situation, good environment, good food, whatever, everybody wants to enjoy. You see, that's again interesting thing to perceive. But when it comes to accumulating the causes for those happy experience environment, everybody is reluctant, you see. That's the problem. That's the problem. So therefore, as we touched earlier also, it is important that when it comes to doing the Buddhist practice, your concern for well-being of others should be the top priority. And with that kind of motivation, with that kind of sense of responsibility, whatever professions you do, whether you're a professor, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a religious teacher, whatever profession you stick to, you will be able to shine out in their profession. You will be able to change the life of many people. And changing the life of people to a positive state and benefiting them is the purpose of human life. Purpose of human life is not just eating, sleeping, going to the toilet, eating, sleeping, going to the toilet. That's not purpose of human life. Purpose of human life is to at least, in one's life, at least bring smile on the face of some people, at least benefit some people. If you are able to do that, you may be popular, you may not be popular, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. Then you are good Buddhist, you are a good human being, your life is really, really meaningful. If you don't do that, then even if you know this whole Buddhist text by heart, so what? It may be good for you just to comfort your ego, but it's not much benefit. So therefore, we talk about hearing, thinking, meditation. In terms of Buddhist practice, we talk about three things: hearing, thinking, meditation, three things. So first, in order to gain idea, knowledge of the Buddha's teaching, you have to listen to the teaching, you have to hear the teaching. As I explained about it yesterday. Now hearing, most of the people don't even do the hearing. Imagine. Most of the people don't even do the hearing. So our being able to hear to the teaching and to live in the vicinity of His Holiness Dalai Lama and great teachers is a great fortune. So if we make a small effort, not big effort, even if we make a small effort, we have this opportunity to listen to the great teacher like His Holiness Dalai Lama. But there are many who doesn't hear, listen. They have no fortune, no luck. Their attraction is in something else, you see. So listening to the teaching is very good, very important. But is listening alone enough? No, it's not enough. You also need to, after having listened to the teaching, you need to think. Now even in the case of this small booklet that we are reading, we are studying together this time. Now it's not a good idea that after we finish this teaching, then you shelve it somewhere. And this is such a small, thin, tiny book that if you shelve it somewhere, it might get lost forever. Now we need to develop some respect to this teaching, the contents of this teaching. And then those of you, the Tibetans, you should read the Tibetan text. Like if you're able to read the whole thing, you can read these things. Right from the beginning, don't say, oh, this I can't read, it will be so difficult. Don't say that. If you read, you may not know everything, but you will know many things. Then read one time, read 2 times, Then gradually, oh, I did not understand this earlier. It really looks like this. Then you more and more you get familiar with the teaching. The more and more you will develop that appreciation and happiness. So that's important. So thinking, after having listened to the teaching, you need to do the homework of thinking. Because from thinking, you are able to develop some conviction about the truth of the teaching. It's very important. So there are those people who come to the second level of thinking, the population is much less. Those who hear to the teaching, come to hear the teaching is also less. But then the second level who do the thinking, do the homework, is much less population. Small people, small number of people. Then the third thing, meditation. Very few. So what we need to do is all the 3. Listen to the teaching, then think, contemplate, and then meditate. Then you will be able to test the flavor of the teaching. Then you will be able to get actual benefit from the teaching. I will give you an example, which I read in one of the Buddhist texts, which gives the example of somebody who is thirsty and looking for water, who has no idea where water is available and looking for water. So in that case, he has to ask somebody, ask the question by saying where water is available. Then that person says, okay, water is available 2 kilometers from here. So that kind of hearing where water is available, is it important? Is it important? Yes, of course it is important because you have no idea where water is available. So by listening to this person, by hearing from him that water is available 2 kilometers from here in this direction, whatever. That's important. But you are thirsty. You are thirsty. So is it enough that you just hear where water is available? Is that enough? Is that enough? Please say something. Is that enough? No. A big no, you see. That's not enough. Exactly like that. So just hearing is not enough. You need to think. So in this case, a person who is thirsty and looking for water, just hearing from somebody water is available is not enough. So what he do is he has to either walk, or if he has a car, walk or drive for that distance, 2 kilometers. So that's like thinking, Then he finally reached near the water. So made a good progress. He heard about it and he actually started, moving towards the direction where water is available. He is finally near the water. That's a big progress. But is that enough? There will be no stupid person who walks up 2 kilometers, reach near the water and then say, I'm so glad I'm near the water. But still he is seeing the water, but still he is thirsty because he has not drunk the water. So thinking is very, very good. You develop conviction about the truth of the teaching. But still, the meaning of the teaching has not become a part of your life. You have not made the teaching a part of your life. So then you have really good idea. Like for example, in my case, I studied Buddhism for many, many years. I know quite well some of these meanings, I may have some conviction. And maybe also good in explaining a little bit. But in my own case, if I don't practice, I don't have it. There is a story of somebody who was a shepherd, looking after sheep. So every morning he used to count hundreds and thousands of sheep, send it to the mountain, to the pasture. Then every evening, when the sheep returned, then again he used to count it. And then somebody came and said, you must be a very rich man. You have so many sheep. Every morning you count, every evening you count, you must be very rich. This person then said, no, I don't have even one sheep. I'm only a servant looking after her. I'm only a shepherd. So my job is to make sure that they are not lost. So I just do the counting. But in my case, I don't have even one. I'm a very poor man. So like that, you see, those of us who have a lot of Buddhist knowledge, don't practice, we are like that shepherd. We can count. This is definition of compassion. Compassion is of 3 types. Just like the shepherd counting the sheep, we can count, you see. But if somebody says, Geshe, tell me, what is your realization? I'm sorry, I have none. You see? And in fact, that question was asked to me one day, long time back, when I was working in Tibet house in New Delhi. I still remember the name of that person, an Indian who was working in that American Library of Congress. So one day he came and said, Geshe, I'm working in the Library of Congress. Can you please help me a little bit with Buddhist teaching? And I said, okay. So after office hours, we used to sit in the lawn near the Tibet house. And I used to explain a little bit of what I know about Buddhist teaching. So one day he said, Geshe, you are a monk, you have been studying Buddhism for so many years. I'm sure you have a lot of realizations. Can you share some of them? He caught me. He caught me, you see. So I found myself like that shepherd, you see. But then I'm not so stupid, so I was able to give some answer. And I told him, when you ask me whether I have realizations, if you're asking me in the sense whether I can open a third eye here or fly in the space, then I have none. I mean, there was a clever answer that I gave. But that may not be doing the justice to his question. But so I told him, I don't have those kind of realizations. But if you're asking in terms of whether I kill people or things like that, then I have some realization. I don't kill people, don't steal, things like that. So when in a sense, this is also important for you to realize, understand. Because in the Buddhist sense of the term, realizations and accomplishments are not just superhuman performances of being able to fly or open a third eye and so forth. But the true realizations are when you have reduced the intensity of afflictive emotions. When you have removed afflictive emotions, that's the highest, greatest realization, in fact, highest accomplishment. So in that case, all of us, through Buddhist practice, if we have reduced a little bit of the intensity of afflictive emotions, we have some kind of small realization, small accomplishment. So I answered him in that way. But what I'm really trying to say is, if you search within yourself, then it's very difficult to find that you have very, very strong, reliable realizations. And that will not be there unless you make the teaching part of your life. So just like that person who just heard about the water, came up to the water, but still he is thirsty. So the only way he can quench his thirst is to bow down and use his hand or use a cup or use a pot, whatever, then drink the water. It's only by drinking the water that his thirst will be quenched. So similarly, it's only by meditation, making your mind completely habituated with the positive qualities. Like for example, when we talk about meditation on compassion, we are not saying that put compassion somewhere there, look at it, focus on it. We are not talking about that kind of meditation. So when we talk about meditation on compassion, we are talking about making your mind compassionate. Making your mind compassionate. That is not easy now, see. Especially when we confront hostile situations, disturbing situations, turbulences, disturbing people, we easily get agitated, disturbed, and let loose our negative emotions. So therefore, occasionally, I'm planning to do something slowly later on, that probably we can come up with, say, 1 week kind of specialization on compassion. We talk about compassion. We not only read Buddhist text, but also we come up with concrete examples of the benefit and usefulness of compassion in actual life. You can bring some examples. All of us can come together, bring some examples, share it, so that we are able to develop genuine conviction. And then get a thorough knowledge about all these different processes of compassion, how to meditate on it, how to make it a part of your life. Then at the same time, we also do some meditation, special meditation. Then we also make a commitment that in this, at least in this 1 week, we'll try to express it wherever we are going and associate. I'm something like that I have in my mind. So let us see how we can plan it and do it. You don't have to wait about whether I'm going to do that or not. You can start doing those things by yourself. You see? Make a commitment, at least for this day, at least for this hour, at least for this week, I'm going to do this. And that is in fact the Buddhist process of meditation. Like you start from how to find a good teacher, you study about the teacher, its qualities, you make your mind familiar with that. It takes some time to get some conviction about those topics. Then you move on to impermanence, spend some time meditating on that. That is the Buddhist process. So we can do that. So to come back to the point, what I was really saying was, it's the lack of knowledge, the misconception of reality, which is the cause of all the problems. Now, misconception of reality. What is reality? What is reality? The reality is we are all interconnected. But we don't understand this. Especially in our regular, unquestioning life. We, as a kind of inborn tendency, those ideas don't come in our mind. And what comes in our mind is me, I. Just focus on yourself and always talk about I, me and mine. What belongs to you, the small circle. You get completely lost into that small world. And then you start experiencing all the problems and difficulties because you have developed a very small, tunneled vision, narrow mind, narrow viewpoint. And you are bound to suffer, you see. So what is being taught in Buddhism is understand the reality. The reality is we are all interconnected. Your happiness is dependent on others. Your peace is dependent on others. Peace and happiness of other people are dependent upon you. Even if you're somebody who really wants to take good care of yourself, you need to understand the whole psychophysical aggregate in its totality. Not just the body. Even here, forget about taking care of others. When it comes to taking care of yourself, you're only thinking primarily of the body. How to give some nice food to the body, how to put some nice clothes to the body. When your eyesight is not so good, how to use a glass. When your hearing is not so good, again how to use an hearing aid, things like that. But what facilities did you give to the mind? Completely ignored. the one which controls us, the boss is completely ignored. Because it's completely ignored, therefore the boss becomes angry, negative, obsessive, compulsive, all the negative emotions go wild. And that's why Buddha, observing the ways of sentient beings, humans, particularly human beings, he said, the world is on fire. The Buddha said, the world is on fire. The world is on fire because we have this compulsive kind of disorder, completely obsessed with the 5 sensual objects. And from there comes all the negative emotions, attachment, anger, jealousy, and so forth. He's absolutely right. The world is on fire. That's what he said. And if he's today in New York, if the Buddha is in New York, I don't know what he's going to say. Conflagration of fire. That's we see all around. Because of this obsessive engagement, the sensual objects, and completely forgetting the mind. So therefore, you need to understand, develop a wider perspective, a stronger sense of responsibility. So in terms of your own psychophysical aggregate, you need to understand the basic fact that you cannot have genuine physical well-being unless you have mental well-being. Because all the movements that you do, your movements of the hand, the legs and body, and then the circulation of the blood, everything that is going in your body is because of the wind energy. And the wind energy is controlled by the mind, the thinking. If you do the wrong thinking, for example, if you develop a wrong thinking and get angry, you can immediately feel the outcome of that anger. You will immediately feel that you are getting backache, headache, you see. And that people like His Holiness Dalai Lama, because of their wonderful attitude, His Holiness, somebody who was, right when he was very young, has to look after this whole question of Tibetan people and Tibet. And then after having lost the country, how much he has to work. But still always smiling, relaxed, peaceful, you see. That's the way to confront the wrongdoers, the enemy, the wrongdoers. That's the way. So therefore, even if you think just about your genuine, long-lasting peace and happiness, you must have a harmonious, stable, balanced mind. So that's what is being taught in Buddhism. That's why I say that Buddhism is a science of mind. During one of the Mind Lab conference, during the tea break, I jokingly told some of the people with whom I was having tea, I told them, I have a good news. Then they said, Geshe, what is good news? I said, the good news is I don't care whether the thinking is done by the mind or the brain, but if you make an effort, you can change. That's the good news. You can make it complicated and discuss for days on who does the thinking, whether there's a mind separate from the brain, or it is just the brain which does the thinking. You can always, for the sake of knowledge, you can always ask these questions. But the thing is, if you do, you can change. You can simplify all these complex things. You can make it very simple. And that also shows, instead of just talking, if you do the thing right from today, you can get the benefit. Maybe tomorrow, maybe even today you can get the benefit. Even today I'm saying you can get the benefit with a good sense of thinking, with an open-mindedness. You will be happy today. That's what you want. When in Buddhism, when we talk about gaining happiness and peace, we are not talking about working hard like a donkey for many, many years and then hopefully one day you will get some happiness. We are not talking about that. The bigger, more reliable, long-lasting happiness, yes, it will take time. But many other types of happinesses you can develop right now. And that's what you need. And if you don't do that, then exactly what Karl Marx said, religion is the opium of the people. Religion is the opium of the people. He said that in that particular time in Prussia, he was surrounded by a religious community, and the religious leaders were in league with the political leaders. That happens everywhere. The top religious leaders and political leaders, they are in league. They are living together, enjoying very nice, happy life, and make the ordinary people work like a donkey. Say, oh, you work hard, you do this, do that, then all your negative emotions will be purified, and then next life you will go to heaven. So something like that. Something like that was being taught there, and people, he saw this big discrepancy between the people in the higher up circle and the lower ones. So therefore he said religion is opium. Meaning that if you take opium, it's not going to remove any of your problems and difficulties, but you develop some kind of hallucination thinking that you are in heaven, you know. You become high and you think you are in heaven, you see. You create that fantasy, you see. So we are not talking about that fantasy here in Buddhism. We are talking about start gaining that happiness right from today. And that you can get if you change your perception, change your attitude, and come closer to the reality. So that's why we talk about impermanence also. Impermanence is not something invented by Buddha, it's a reality. Change is a reality. When Buddha talked so much about suffering, he's talking about reality. A reality which people didn't want to see. That's the problem. You see, we don't want to see the reality. We want to close our eyes thinking, oh, nothing is impermanent, I'm going to live forever. Buy this car, build this house, get this husband, get this wife, get all this wealth, accumulate all this wealth, and I live for a long, long time. That is what all the ancient kings did that. I gave you the example of this Kangra fort. You can go there and see what they were planning, you see. And even in a very ordinary level, we do that. We do that. If you ask anybody, are you going to die one day? Everybody will say, yes, sir, I'm going to die one day. If you ask them, are you going to die today? No, sir. That's the problem, you see. And Tsongkhapa says in his great stages of the path, that's the problem. So even if you are very old man of say 96 or 99 years old, if you ask him, are you going to die today? Even that person might say, oh, I am very old, I am going to die soon, maybe not today. See? So tomorrow never comes. So there is this inborn reluctance to accept the reality. So what the Buddha is teaching is accept the reality. You cannot run away from the reality. Reality is reality. So therefore, gain more knowledge, develop more wisdom, and the more you develop that wisdom and understand the fact how we are interconnected, how we are related, the more you will be able to show compassion and empathy to others. That's the beauty of this teaching, you see. The more you understand reality, like for example, the more you understand, for example, the impermanent nature of all of us, the more you should be able to develop compassion. They're all going to die one day. And that one day, not sure when, maybe tomorrow, maybe after 2 years. See, this is the truth. And we don't even want to listen. Among an ordinary crowd, if you say, oh, maybe I'm going to die today, and say, oh, don't say such inauspicious word. They don't even want to talk about the reality, you see. But if you are somebody who really has this understanding, all these people have one or the other problem, all these people are going to die one day, then naturally you will develop some concern, you see. When you are able to see the innocence of everybody, you see. Everybody may be pretending that I'm somebody, I'm clever, this. They may be doing this But in the true sense of the term, everybody is not that clever, not that intelligent. Why? Because we are always doing the wrong thing, not the right thing. If you are clever, you should be doing the right thing, not the wrong thing. So that means we are all there is a kind of innocence, there is kind of childishness there. By observing all this, at least you will be able to develop some better feeling of closeness. And if your compassion is much more strong, then of course you will always feel that. With whoever you come into contact, you will be able to feel that. So to reach that level, you need to do the practice continuously. So hearing, thinking and meditation. Meditation means getting habituated. Getting habituated obviously with positive emotions. Because with negative emotions, we are already very, very, very well habituated. We are highly advanced meditators in negative emotions. So obviously, getting habituated with positive emotions. That's important. Okay? So that's what we are basically talking about when we talk about in meditative equipoise, one will know the verse number 9. In meditative equipoise, one will know the perfect view. So I was basically talking about developing the perfect view. Wisdom, understanding reality. That will help remove all the negative emotions from the root. And in order to develop that perfect view, the wisdom, you need to develop that meditative equipoise. You need to develop that calm abiding. And what obstructs the development of calm abiding is the external distractions. External distractions. I already explained about the distraction towards the sensual objects. Getting distracted towards sensual objects is said to be very, very dangerous if you don't maintain some kind of restraint. Even if you get distracted to one object, one out of the 5 sensual objects, even if you get distracted or obsessed with one object, you might get big problem. In some of the Abhidharma texts, it gives the example of a butterfly getting obsessed with the butter lamp. The butterfly sees the butter lamp may be a palace or something, an elegant form or something. And the butterfly gets so obsessed with that butter lamp, he just jumps into the butter lamp and dies there. We have seen this so many times. The butterflies dying. So that is obsession with the form, physical form. If you get obsessed with the physical form, you can get into such a big trouble. Then it gives the example of a fish being caught and killed when it get obsessed with the food that the fisherman put as his bait. It's caught, it goes after that small meat or whatever is there, then the fisherman catches the fish, thrown outside of the water and is killed. That is obsession with taste. Then the flies, the house flies, which we see all the time, they get obsessed with smell. They go to alight on the dirt, and then their feet stuck in that mud or the dirt and dies there. We in summer we see hundreds and thousands of flying die in the dirt, you see, because they get obsessed with the smell. And then it said that the wild animals like deer, they are very fond of sweet sound. When the hunter plays a kind of musical instrument or something, after having laid the trap, then the deers with their ears raised, they come towards their trap and then they are caught and killed. That's the problem that you can get when you get obsessed with sound. Then the elephant, it is said, is very fond of touch. physically it's very strong, but if you just gently touch and massage the elephant, he'll enjoy the touch so much, he'll just sit down, lie down, and then you put the hook or whatever and enslave that elephant. So now imagine the human beings who are obsessed with all the 5 sensual objects, number one. Number two, the business people sees these weaknesses of human beings, that they're all obsessed with the sensual objects, and then to entrap them more, they come up with all these advertisements. See? Oh, use this shampoo, use this, throw this fragrance on your body, whatever, so much advertisements. Now if you go to a big mall, these big malls, I see it as a perfect example of entrapping people who are obsessed with the 5 sensual objects. The first floor is, let us say, restaurant, taste. The next floor is fragrance, scents of all types. I'm not exaggerating, it is there, you go and see. And then the third floor is DVDs, CDs, musics of Japan, Korea, China, whatever, Tibetan, whatever. The next floor is televisions, black, white television, color televisions, flat televisions, whatever form. So they're all there, all the 5 sensual objects. And when we go there, because as one of the Abhidharma texts says, now when you go there, or even when you not go there, the object is there. The problem is the object is there. The external object is there. The internal improper mental engagement is also there. So when these two things come together, the external object is there, the improper mental engagement to the object is there, that completes the causes for the development of afflictive emotions. That completes the causes for the development of afflictive emotions. So with this kind of tendency, with this kind of habit, when you visit a big mall, at one point of the time when I was flying from somewhere, I was in the aircraft reading a magazine, where I found a very interesting word, shopping coma. Shopping coma. So with this attachment and desire, when you go to this shopping mall, you really experience that coma. Because then without much, then you are unable to think much, everything is so good, and then you buy one. Because the person who is going in front of you, he carries a basket and he seems to be putting so many things. And you should also do something like that, see. Not really able to judge what you really need, what you don't really need, you see. And when you come into the shop, there may be many things which you did not even think before, but then having seen those things, you thought, oh, maybe this I need, maybe this I need. Then you keep on buying, keep on buying. Then there is a nice advertisement by saying, buy 2, 1 free. It's, oh, this is, maybe I need it in the future, or maybe I'll give it to my friend, So with this kind of thinking, you buy those things also, you see, shopping coma. Interesting, I read that magazine. Then one day I was reading a mind training text, very old mind training Buddhist text. It says the same thing, Tibetan word, Thomsi, Thomlachina Sigres, Rasigres, Thomsi. Exactly like the Thomsi. When you are in the marketplace, you can easily lose many of your things because you are kind of intoxicated. You are carried away by the sins around there, you see. So you come back to senses only when you return to your home, having bought everything and start unpacking everything. Then you realize, oh my goodness, why the hell I bought this one? Have you experienced something like that? We do all experience. I have experienced that. I'm telling you my experience. So that's the thing, you see. That's the thing. So unless we make some effort, these die-hard habits, it's very, very difficult to leave behind. Therefore, many of these Buddhist texts, they constantly encourage us to do the practice right from today. Don't postpone your practice. Don't postpone your practice. Postponing the practice is laziness. We are repeatedly bombarded and told like that in the Buddhist text. Because otherwise it will be very difficult to get rid of these habits. So therefore, in meditative equipoise, by spending some time alone and thinking, then you will be able to develop this perfect view, wisdom, understanding reality in its many forms. So to develop that wisdom, you need to have that calm abiding. And in order to have that, you need to restrain your senses. And do not let your senses go wild. Do not let your senses catch fire. As the Buddha said, the house is on fire. Okay? And if you are able to do that, then the mind will not be distracted from peace. That meaning you will always be in peace. See, interesting, see? You get the real peace when your mind is not distracted. When you are distracted, you are not getting peace. In the absence of conscientiousness, so in order to have that kind of peace and to ensure that you are not distracted, you must have mindfulness and conscientiousness. You must have a good sense of practice of morality. In the absence of conscientiousness, others will overpower you. The external factors will overpower you. And if you don't have the mindfulness, instead if you have forgetfulness, then forgetfulness leads you to something other than your object of focus, and thus your mind will become distracted. But once you possess mindfulness and conscientiousness and stop becoming distracted by external objects, you will gain control. So let the mind remain focused on a single object, and it will abide there for as long as you wish. From that will arise many benefits. We read this yesterday actually. The next is protecting from what is harmful to others. So the whole focus of the Buddhist teaching is how to help others and not to harm others. Not to harm others does not mean that you should stop intentionally harming others, but not only stopping intentionally harming others, but even though you don't have the intention to harm others, but what you need to take care is your very presence, your very way of saying things to others, your very way of making a hand gesture. You need to check whether this is making others unhappy or happy. See? So we'll read this a little bit from here later on. And here in that text, it gives an example by saying, to make a long story short, you should behave like a new bride. You should behave like a new bride. The newlywed bride she is very shy and very gentle, and so behave like that. That's found in one of these texts. So, protecting from what is harmful to others, you can do that by always being gentle. Don't be unruly. Don't be bully. Don't be a bully. By always being gentle, physically gentle, mentally gentle, verbally gentle, and not wild. We discussed this a little bit yesterday. In terms of your speech, it should not be unruly, it should be gentle, it should not be wild. Like Manjushri. The word Manjushri, Buddha Manjushri, the word Manjushri came from the fact that because of his mind is completely purified of afflictive emotions, therefore his speech is also very soft spoken. Jambe yang, Jamba means soft, the one who has soft speech. By always being gentle and not wild, and by speaking appropriately and sweetly, speaking what is suitable on the occasion. You cannot just throw all your words in the face of somebody in random. Just say the right thing at the right time. If somebody is asking the question, answer it nicely. If you don't know the answer, say no politely, and don't speak more than what is needed at the hour. And make sure that you don't end up saying things which will unnecessarily provoke others and make others unhappy. Therefore, the Buddhas, they are called meaningful to behold. The Buddhas are called meaningful to behold. Like His Holiness the Dalai Lama is meaningful to behold. Everybody wants to see His Holiness. Why? It's meaningful to behold Him. It's meaningful to see Him. You get happiness. Oh, I saw His Holiness. I just saw His Holiness in the window of the car, you see. Even if you get a glimpse of Him, you get so happy. Why? Because he has practiced loving kindness, he has practiced compassion, he is trying to help everybody. That's why he is treated like one's parents. And it is said that when the Buddha moves in this town, whoever sees the Buddha at that point of the time, his afflictive emotions disappears. See? And you can to some extent, you can also imitate the good things, you know. If you are gentle, if you have a smile on your face, everybody will be happy. So with this kind of gesture, then the fortunate beings will develop faith. That means the followers or students or practitioners who have some fortune to come into the path of the Mahayana, because they already have some potential inside. And then as an external situation, you met this person with this nice gesture, soft-spoken and so forth. So by seeing that person, you immediately develop closeness to that person and develop that interest and appreciation. So the fortunate beings will develop faith towards the Mahayana teaching by observing the gesture and behavior of that person, that bodhisattva. And one will also be born in a life that is respected. This last line, to be honest, I'm not very sure. This is how I translate it, but it could also be translated in a different way, meaning that you will be born in a life where your words will be trusted, your speech will be trusted, your life will be respected. So more or less same, but it could be different also. So here I think it is primarily talking about the words that you use towards other people. It should be appropriate, it should be soft. So if you do that, then people will like you, people will like to listen to you. They will show interest, they will show appreciation. And then as a result, in the next life, you will be born in a life where your words will be trusted. When we talk about this practice of the 10 virtuous qualities, then it is mentioned there that as a result of your practicing the 4 virtuous verbal qualities, not telling lie, not engaging in divisive talk, not using harsh speech, not engaging in gossip, then in the future your words will be trusted. You will be able to marry a person who will trust you. So many positive results like that are mentioned there. But if you in this life, if you engage in divisive talk, tell lie, then even when you get married, the husband does not trust the wife wife does not trust the husband, the teachers don't trust their students don't trust their teacher, you see. So your words will not be respected, your words will not be trusted. Okay? Even if you are a beginner, there's no need for you to get discouraged. Even if you are a beginner, you should have patience towards sentient beings. You should have patience towards sentient beings. This is so interesting. As I briefly explained earlier, that patience is really like, Tsongkhapa mentioned in one of his texts, that patience is really like an armor that you put on yourself. Especially if you are powerful. especially if you are powerful, then you should practice patience all the more. Okay? And then, especially in today's life, when you face so many difficulties and problems and unexpected changes, it's always important to have your mind cool and patient. And especially you should have patience towards sentient beings, because these sentient beings, as I mentioned earlier, they all want happiness, do not want suffering, number one. But despite their wanting happiness, not wanting suffering, they end up experiencing suffering. They end up not getting enough happiness. Why? Because they are ignorant. They're ignorant means it is understandable that they will have these problems, because they're like a small child, they don't have the knowledge. So when you see this, naturally you will develop, as I said earlier, you will develop compassion, you will develop patience. Many of the Buddhist texts, they compare the sentient beings like your old mother, one of your old mother, who, when she was healthy and able, she used to love you so much. She used to take so much care about you when she was sound physically and mentally. Your mother was so kind to you. Take that example, the mother who was very kind to you. Now today, if that your mother, unfortunately, is insane, mad, her mind is not functioning, and she ends up doing all unworthy, stupid, silly things. She is not grateful to the good things that you do. She is not anymore as kind as she used to be. So if today she observes all this changed behavior, what should you do? What should be your reaction? If you are a good child, good son, good daughter, you should remember how kind she was before. How kind she was before. Now she is doing all these strange things, not because she liked to do, but because her mind is not functioning, therefore she is doing all these stupid things. So if you are really good son or a good daughter, you should show more compassion than before. Because when she was physically, mentally healthy, even if you don't take care of her, she can take care of herself. Now today, because her mind is not functioning, she is doing all these stupid things, destructive things. Therefore, it becomes your responsibility to take more care of that mother whose mind is not functioning. So in those mind training Buddhist texts, they say the rest of the sentient beings are like that mother, who have been kind to us from time immemorial. And even today, if you look at them, ordinary people, basically they are all very kind. The seed is there. And I have visited, I think now maybe over 60 countries probably. Definitely 50 countries I visited all over the world. And when I meet with ordinary people, they are kind, they are ready to share something with you. They are kind. Whatever capacity, limited capacity they have, they are ready to help you. Even in those countries where you don't speak their language, still they smile and they try to be nice. That is there, you see. The kindness is there. So they have been kind to you now and in the past many lives also. But now today they are suffering because of ignorance, because of lack of knowledge. So seeing this, you should develop there is all the more reason that you develop more concern and sense of responsibility and compassion to these people. So there's the example given there. So therefore, when you see this, naturally you will be able to develop patience. And developing patience is now easier because you develop that fondness, closeness towards sentient beings. Because the first condition for you, when you talk about developing loving kindness towards all sentient beings, is to develop this feeling of closeness. When you are able to develop this feeling of closeness, then you will be able to develop their loving kindness. So should a patience towards sentient beings, because this will generate aspirations within them. Yeah, if you develop that patience and show closeness, and then they will also develop interest in you. They will also put more trust in you. Then you can help them. How? When you abstain from physical and verbal wrongdoings, others will have faith in you. And your word then will be trusted. You are not just talking, but you are doing. So therefore you will be trusted. When you are trusted, then you can share Dharma, you can show them the path, and you can then help them. What fault is there if one does not undertake such practice? If that life is not respectable, meaning if your word is not trusted, for example, if you take a life, if you are born in a life where your word is not respected, where your word is not trusted, where your life is not respected, then then the world is belittling the Buddha sprout. Then the world here probably means then you who has this life is belittling the Buddha sprout. Because the other sentient beings, they all have the Buddha sprout. They all have the seed of the Buddha. Now because of your behavior, they are not respecting you, they are not trusting you. So in that way, you are harming them. It may not be your intention to harm them, but you've given that opportunity of losing faith. So therefore, there's also there's a kind of obstruction. So you need to be very careful about that, because like a fire covered by ash, sentient beings will burn in hell and so forth. Like a fire covered by ash, thinking that there is only ash and no fire. If you lay your hand down, because there is fire beneath the ash, your hand will be burnt. So similarly, all these sentient beings, they have the Buddha nature. And if you don't be very careful, then you may be obstructing them. As a result of your physical and verbal wrongdoings, sentient beings will despise the bodhisattvas. See, that's how you are harming them. They might despise the bodhisattvas. And this will take them to negative states of existence. Since you contributed to this, you will also experience negative results. Therefore, the conqueror means victor, which means Buddha, the one who had conquered, one who had gained victorious over the evil forces of death, of afflictive emotions and so on. Therefore, the conqueror in the Ratanamegha Sutra, as a summary of the vows, as a summary of all the bodhisattva vows, he says that one should with alertness thoroughly give up anything which would cause sentient beings to lose faith. That is the thing. To make a long story short, you should live your life in such a way that people will not develop disrespect, or you will not become a cause for them to lose their faith. So in other words, to make it more simpler, you should live your life in such a way that all your activities, physical, verbal, mental activities, become a cause of delight and happiness to others. Your whole way of life should give faith to others, encouragement to others. Should always be able to inspire, encourage others and give them hope. Give them hope. Don't discourage them. It is very important practice, because in our daily life, we are very fond of discouraging others. There are not many people who would encourage each other. If we all encourage each other, by now we should all be completely different. If we all encourage each other and support each other, like for example in the case of the Tibetan society, if we all live harmoniously, encourage each other, support each other, we are on a different stage completely. But that normally doesn't happen. We are very good in discouraging others. If somebody is doing something, then people will make sarcastic remarks. Oh, he is doing that. He is doing something against the tradition. Oh, he is doing something against the religion. Oh, he's... I mean, you don't see the good things, but simply try to find fault with that. So it's important to encourage others. And if somebody commits a small mistake, then everybody is after that. It will be in the newspaper. It will be in the television. Everybody says, oh, he's the wicked person. He's the one who has done that. If somebody does something good, nobody talks about it. That's the situation, you see. That is the situation. Not only in the Tibetan society, but everywhere that is the situation, unfortunately. There's nobody, the fact is there's nobody who does not have any fault. Everybody has some faults. That's why we are not Buddha. So now the question is how to help each other to get rid of this fault, this problem, these sufferings. Rather than just highlighting the fault and victimizing that person, or ostracizing that person, making that person a black sheep among the society. That's not our job. That's not our responsibility. So therefore, as a Buddhist practitioner, you should see your fault and see the qualities, good qualities of others. Highlight your fault, highlight the good qualities of others. But we don't do that. We highlight other people's faults and highlight the small things that you have. As if I'm very special, I'm very great. That's the problem. So, the summary is that you should live your life in such a way that you become a sustenance to others. You become a source of joy and delight to others. You become a source of peace and happiness to others. You become a source of hope and encouragement to others. Amazing, how many people are suffering because they are totally discouraged because of the situation of the society, because of the surrounding, because of the people living with them, So many people die because of discouragement, loneliness, helplessness, you see. And that's why Shantideva's prayer is, may I be able to change myself in any form that would encourage and make others happy. May I become a lamp in the darkness. May I become a bridge when there is turbulent water to cross, So in every visible form, he prays that I become something that would cheer others. And you can do that. All of us can do that in our own small way. We can all do it. And that reminds me a story of a very elderly sick person who was bedridden. And there was another very elderly bedridden person. So this very elderly bedridden person, his bed was near the window. Then another person, equally old, was on another side where there was no window. So both are bedridden. This is a story I read in a book. So this person who was bedridden, and he just looks from the window and then tells the story to the others who was also bedridden, saying that, oh, there's some beautiful flower, the flower's color is this, oh, there's some very interesting people are going, they're doing this, they're playing, this, he just invents so many stories. And then the other person, old person, he used to listen to that and he really enjoyed the story. So that way, this elderly person, he made not only himself but other person's life happier. So one day this elderly person who was sleeping near the window, he died. And then this person, he immediately made a request that from the window it really looks like you're able to see many things. Please let me move towards that window. And when he was actually taken to the window was facing a wall. There's nothing. There was nothing there to see except a wall. But this elderly person who passed away, he was inventing things and making other people's life cheerful, you see. So you can always, cheer others, because human mind is very sensitive. And then you can make it and mar it, depending upon how you express yourself to others. So that's, as I asked you to make one promise earlier, whatever may come in your life, make sure that you will never be unhappy. I asked you to make that promise. Now the second promise here, which is said in this text, is you should live your life in such a way that your life will become a source of joy and happiness to others, source of hope and peace to others. So such negative actions harm both yourself and others. Therefore, they must be given up, because negative actions, negative emotions, negative actions, they are not good at all. They are bad for you, they are bad for others, they are bad for your physical health, they are bad for your mental health, they are bad for you temporarily, they are bad for you in the long run. Therefore, in Buddhism, we term these negative emotions as poisons. So such negative actions harm both yourself and others. Therefore, they must be given up. The most crucial practice of the Bodhisattva vow is giving up actions that would cause sentient beings to lose their faith. And if you want to read more, this is explained in the Ratanamagga Sutra in detail. Relying on conditions conducive to this life. It's not enough that you get rid of negative emotions. You should also cultivate conditions that are facilitating, that are conducive and useful to this life. Is protecting oneself limited only to the above practices? If not, in what other ways can it be done? Possession of medicines, clothes and so forth, if used with self-craving, will become an afflictive downfall. So here is saying one should protect one's body by using various necessary medicines, clothes, houses, mantras and so forth, as mentioned in the Arya Ratanamagga Sutra. You can read the details in the Arya Ratanamagga Sutra. So basically he's saying that in order to help others, you protect yourself. And one way of protecting yourself is that you should use all the necessary facilities. Like when you are sick, use medicine. When you are feeling cold, use clothes. Or build houses. All these are needed to protect yourself with the wish to protect others. So your life is now becoming very precious. If you are engaging in the Bodhisattva way of life, your life is becoming very precious. Number one, you already have a precious human life. In addition to the precious human life, you are making it even more precious by undertaking that Bodhisattva practice, whose vow is to benefit all sentient beings. So you have become doubly precious, very, very precious, because you have this capacity to benefit so many. So that's why we make long life offering to great teachers like His Holiness Dalai Lama, because their life is so precious. We request them to live long. You see? So in yoga is also, if you engage in such a way of practice, whether people are making long life offerings to you or not, but your life is also precious. Therefore you should pray that I live long, that may I be able to continue to do such practices in this life. So that helps you to remain longer. But prayer alone is not enough. So therefore you should actually do those things which will prolong your life, which will make you healthy, by taking medicines, using proper clothes and so forth. And especially when you are thinking about helping others, you did all these things. Now when we talk about medicines, in Buddhist texts it talks about two types of medicines. One is called regular medicine, and the second is the medicine that we take when we become sick. So the regular medicines are the food that we take all the time. Food is a medicine, as is being written in Nagarjuna's letter to the friend. Before eating the food, the food offering is made by saying that, may I be able to see this food as a medicine. May I be able to enjoy this food without attachment, without hatred, without having concern about making my body, the complexion of my body shine out and things like that, or to become arrogant, but simply for my survival and to be able to benefit others. So with that kind of motivation, you make the offering and you take the food. Now, when you say food is a medicine, it has a lot of implications. So how much should you eat? That's the question. Therefore, in the Buddhist text, it talks about having moderation in food. Now, in the case of medicine, how much you will eat, You will not eat maybe 3-4 balls of medicine. Much less. So similarly, even if you want to eat a little bit more, but not to the extent of making you unable to breathe properly. Okay? So therefore there should be moderation in food, meaning do not eat too much, overeat, or do not eat too less. If you overeat, eat too much, your body will become heavy, your mind will become unclear, and that's why normally after lunch people tend to fall asleep because of having eaten too much, you see. You're very heavy. And then much of the modern diseases are because of overeating. Not because of short of food, but because of overeating and not eating the right thing. There is an expression in America, they say, Americans are overfed, undernourished. I mean, this is just an expression, it's not just in America, it applies to many rich countries. So these days people are overfed, undernourished. You see? Even in the case of people who are suffering from obesity, many of them are suffering from malnourishment. It's almost kind of paradox, undernourished. So take the right food, right amount. And then when you get sick, you must take medicine. Okay? And of course cloth and so forth. And also cloth. In the Buddhist text it says, when you wear the cloth, don't wear the cloth just as an ornament or as a decoration, but see the cloth as almost like a bandage for the wound. In a way, body is like a wound. There are so many openings here and there, so many things to cover, you see. And now because we are habituated, we don't get so much pain as we used to get when we were born. When we were born, it is said in the text that when the child is born from the mother's womb, the child experiences so much pain as if he is skinned alive. That's why the child comes crying, see. Because he is exposed to an environment which he is not at all used. So therefore, the purpose is to protect yourself from the climate. So again, to reduce attachment, see the clothes almost like a bandage. So anyway, whatever you are using, food, clothes, house, whatever you're using, use them so that you are able to remain physically, mentally healthy. And you should remain physically and mentally healthy so that you are able to help others. And with this kind of motivation of helping others, whatever you use, it's fine, it's okay. But if you use these things because of self-craving, because of attachment, if used with self-craving, then it will become an afflictive downfall. Meaning that it will become an affliction, which will become a downfall, because you are now infringing the bodhisattva vows. So one should protect one's body using various necessary medicines, clothes, houses, mantras also. If you are getting sick, there are mantras to be recited. If you are fearful of a robber or a thief, there are mantras to be recited. So there are a lot of mantras here also. Arya Ratana Mega, as is mentioned in the Arya Ratana Mega Sutras, those should be used with wish to help others. Everything that one enjoys should be transformed and blessed for the sake of all sentient beings. If a bodhisattva who has given up everything for the sake of all other sentient beings, somehow out of forgetfulness uses others' resources, because you have dedicated everything to others, so it has become others' resources. So out of forgetfulness, if he uses other resources with craving for personal nourishment, it will become a deluded downfall. It will become a deluded downfall. All right, time is gone. Thank you very much. See you on Monday. Tomorrow there is no class, second Saturday or something, then Sunday. So see you on Monday. Thank you.